Hello tankers, and welcome back for another light tank video. What is your favorite tank to scout in? Leave it in the comments below. If you're interested in more focused gameplay and tricks and tips to perform better in the battlefield, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell. Today we're watching another great game in a WZ-132A. This time we're following Vidrus from the DEGA clan. The map today is STEPPS for this random battle, and we can see Vidrus decides to attempt to get some early spots on the 1-2 lines. It seems the entire team has decided to focus on the eastern side of the map, leaving Vidrus by himself. At first, I thought maybe map awareness wasn't a very strong suit for our player, but it becomes clear soon enough that it is certainly not the case. Vidrus sets up in the bush here at F2 just in front of the rocks and takes special care to back up and adjust the tank so that he is at the edge of concealment. You see how he rocks back and forth and the bush becomes solid and see-through? This is a great place to be, especially when he is off on his own. It helps him avoid detection whenever possible. At this point, he knows he has two heavy tanks coming into gun view, and he makes his way back to his team. He realizes the T-49 is a threat and does his best to make it as difficult as possible for the T-49 to get any spots on his team. He definitely takes some serious damage for his efforts here, but he makes great use of the hit points he spends at the beginning of this game. As he comes up over this hill, he takes his damage, and you can see he's already down to 472 hit points. At this point, he's making his way back, trying to become undetected, but still stay in a position where he can try to get some spots for the rest of his team to help him out. He is very cautious of where the heavy tanks are, and you can see he rides up over the tracks and uses the hill as cover as he peeks just enough to light the heavy tanks for his team. He even takes a few shots where he can to try to get in some damage and some tracks. Thankfully, several of his teammates have started to move into position to cover the western flank. One thing about spotting is that it becomes useless if you have no one watching the map or looking at where you're spotting. Vidrus attempts to enlist the support of the P-44 Pantera, who is already aware tanks are approaching from the southwest. He pops up over the hill, tries to take a shot, and continues moving on, keeping himself just at the edge of this ridge. Here he sees the WZ-111-14 approaching the tracks, and he attempts to back up and keep him lit for his team just as he takes a hit, dropping him down to 3 hit points. He could easily be taken out simply by running into something too hard, so he has to play very strategically if he wants to remain useful for the rest of his team. He continues to slide between the 1 and 2 lines, trying to keep these tanks lit as much as possible so the rest of his team can do the damage and help him out. He is already at 5,000 spotting assist and 894 personal damage, but the game certainly isn't over yet. He begins to fall back as the enemy tanks put more pressure on the tracks. And he finds a good location behind this train to continue to spot and assist, knowing any hit will remove him from the game and potentially leave his team wiped out. Positions as best he can near the bushes and hill, leaving as little of his tank exposed as possible, continuing to help his team whittle down the few remaining heavies. He puts himself in cover just behind this bush and continues to spot this VK. He lines up, takes a shot to try to track him, keep him in that position, and let his team continue to finish him off. At this point, he begins moving back up on the Maushan, knowing that there's only a few tanks remaining. And as you can see, several of the rest of his team members have moved into position to continue following and supporting him. Now that the Maushan is out of the way, he's going to try to help get some spots on the middle. These guys are dropping like flies. This is great. He continues moving around the outer edge, avoiding being detected as much as possible, using the bushes to hide himself and try to get spots without being seen. Even this T-44, he ends up taking out. Now, with only a few tanks, actually a couple of tanks remaining, they know that they almost absolutely have to be covering the capture point. So now he's going to move up, putting himself over the ridge, trying to get the spots that his team's needs to kill these last two tanks. He kind of took a risk cutting early instead of watching all the flanks, but it was an educated risk. More than likely, this is the place where we're going to see these tank destroyers setting up. He takes one shot, bounces, but he keeps himself in a position so he can easily keep this prototype spotted for the rest of his team. Moves up to try to take one more shot right in the side, putting him in on fire. Then he repositions while the rest of his team takes some additional shots. There he goes. He spots the prototype again, takes another shot. His team takes him out. Then he moves over for the Waffentrager. At this point, he's got 1,936 damage. And as his team takes out the Waffentrager, 8,371 spotting for a mastery badge. Awesome job.